What is going on, Fit Fam? Welcome on back to my channel. My name is Megan Janice, the founder of Nomadic Fitness, and I teach you ladies how to eat way more food without any restrictions and work out smarter instead of harder so you can build a beautiful, banging, hourglass feminine body that you also feel amazing in, super energized, and stay this way year-round with ease. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and if you're coming on back, thanks so much for joining for another video. Okay, fam, let me ask you a question. Do you feel like you are somebody who regularly works out consistently, you eat healthy, but you feel like you don't actually look like somebody who regularly works out and eats healthy? If that is you, comment down below. That's me, okay? Because I'm gonna get into why that is the case in this video and what to do about it so you can actually start looking like somebody who's putting in all the effort that you're putting in. Exercising alone is not enough. Eating healthy alone is not enough. There are two things you need to do to actually build a body that looks like it's really fit. Number one, you need to train instead of just randomly exercising or kind of thinking like, okay, let me just breeze through this workout, check it off, move on with my day. You actually need to make sure that you are working smarter, not necessarily harder. So again, doesn't need to be so many times per week. I only train 4 days per week. For years, I did 5, but I'm now at 4 and I have my best ever results doing a little bit less. And I'm actually lifting the least amount of weight, but when I am training, I make it count. I really give my full focus, full attention, and make sure I really know what are the muscles I'm trying to target with this exercise and absolutely maxing that muscle with the most amount of tension that I possibly can. And again, that doesn't mean just lifting as heavy as possible. That means just really overloading the muscle by stimulating it, by controlling the weight that you are lifting. So nice, slow, controlled reps. Okay, so that's the first part. But the second thing, and this is in a sense, I'd say even more important. The training is also really important. These two things need to go hand in hand. But if you're not doing this second thing, you can be training well, but you're still not really going to ever get all the curves, all the lines, all the definition that you want. And the second thing is that you have to have periodization with your nutrition, meaning you need to cycle through different phases where you are focused on eating lots more, so being in a calorie surplus, otherwise called a bulk, or what I like to call a lean gaining phase, because I know that the word bulk can kind of scare some women, even though it really shouldn't. Because all that bulking means is you are eating in a little bit of a calorie surplus so that you can maximize muscle gain. So you need to spend some time doing that. And then you also need to spend some time going through a cut, which is a fat loss phase, meaning you're in a calorie deficit. And then in between all of this, you need to spend time reverse dieting. So in this video, that's really what I want to explain is what are each of these phases? Why should you do them? What are the benefits of them? And when should you do them? How will you know your body is ready for it? Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The very first step to figure out how much you should be eating and understand the direction you need to move in to achieve your physique goals is you first need to understand how much do you actually eat right now. So please, please, please do not go on the internet and look for a macro calculator or a calorie calculator, because all that those things take into account is your age, height, weight, activity level. That's great, but the problem with that is it's just taking the entire population and spitting out an average estimate of what you should be burning based on those things. However, our bodies are so smart and so adaptive. So just because you are X height, X weight, X activity level does not necessarily mean that you are burning that many calories. You could actually be burning way more or way less. So the only way to for sure understand where your body is currently at is you need to figure out how much food am I actually averaging. So what you're going to do is you're going to download an app like MyFitnessPal, and you're going to track everything that you eat in that app for 7 days as best as you can. Even if it's not perfectly accurate, you just want to get an idea of, okay, how many calories am I actually consuming? And not just the calories, even beyond the calories, you want to know where are those calories coming from, aka what are your macros? How much protein am I having? How much fats and how much carbs am I having? Because this is going to give you so much insight into why you may be looking and feeling the way that you are right now. So do this for a week, and then you're going to take the grand total of all of the calories that you ate and you're going to divide it by 7, and then you're going to find out where your average intake is. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to actually set macro targets from that calorie intake. So here is kind of the golden standard of what your macros should look like as a woman. So number 1 is the protein intake. As a woman, your protein intake should be somewhere between 120 to 150 grams of protein a day. The closer that can be to 1 gram per per pound in body weight, the better. However, let's say you weigh 200 pounds, there's no need to actually eat 200 grams of protein. I have never put any woman over 150 grams of protein a day. You really just don't need to. And if you're going too high in your protein, you're actually gonna be taking away valuable calories that should be going probably towards carbs and maybe a little bit towards fats. So set somewhere between 120 to 150 grams. If right now you're only eating like 50 grams of protein a day, which is what a lot of women are eating, then just start trying to eat 120 a day, and then you can slowly bump your way up. Okay, the next thing you're gonna set is your fat intake. Your fat macro is the only one that you're going to determine as a percentage. So your fat intake should be anywhere from 25 to 30% of what your total calories are. So let's say you figured out that your average intake of calories was 1,800 calories a day. I hope it was at least that much, because if it's any less than that, it's not good, but it's okay if that's the case, you can work your way up. So if your intake was 1,800 and then you wanted to do 30% of that to fats, you would multiply it by 0.3, that gives us 540. So that means it's 540 calories going towards fat. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, whereas 1 gram of protein and carbs is 4 calories. So we're gonna take the 540 calories that go to fat, divide that by 9, and we get 60 grams of fat, which is a pretty good amount of fat. I find that women in general are usually gonna eat somewhere between 50 to 80 grams of fat per day. I really haven't seen any woman eating over 80 grams of fat a day, even when she's eating like over 3,000 calories a day. And that's just because although we do need fats, and 80 grams of fat is definitely a good amount for your day, the problem with eating too much dietary fat is that it converts very easily over into body fat. So if we're obviously trying to get like a lean, toned, shapely physique, we wanna make sure that we're not gaining too much body fat, and that's gonna happen if our fat intake is too high. Okay, so now we have our protein, we have our fats, and then the rest of the calories that is left over after you subtract how many calories goes to protein and how many calories goes to fat is going to go to your carbs. So generally speaking, your carb intake is always going to be the highest macro, and if it's not, you're definitely gonna work on getting it up. I usually think that women should be eating minimum 150 grams of carbs a day to start, and for some women, as sad as this is, that's still gonna be a lot higher than what you have been eating. So setting it at least 150 grams more or less to get started, and then you're gonna keep bumping it up, bumping it up, bumping it up, all the way up to over 200 grams a day, as high as maybe 300 grams, and at some point even higher than that, maybe even like 400 when you're really putting on muscle. Okay, so that was just a quick overview of how to set your macros, but if you want more specific detail about how to do it, I made a video here that goes thoroughly in detail about it, so you can click on that and have a little bit more of a breakdown about the macros. Okay, so now that you actually have your macros set, what you're going to start doing is the reverse diet. This is step number 1. So 2 things. Why should you do a reverse diet, and what actually is it? Okay, so a reverse diet is literally the inverse of a diet. A diet is where you consistently eat less and less and less and less because you're trying to lose weight, which is not always necessarily effective. So a reverse diet is where you gradually start eating more and more and more and more, and the reason why is because your body adapts. Just as much as your body adapts when you are constantly cutting your calories, which actually is why a lot of the time it's not effective, because all you're doing is you're making your body burn fewer and fewer and fewer calories, and you're losing a bunch of muscle, unbalancing your hormones, so it's just a big mess. The opposite works as well. When you gradually eat more and more and more, especially if you are under eating chronically right now, your body is going to adapt. It's going to start burning more calories 24/7 on autopilot. Your hormones are going to balance because they're going to be happy. Your body's not going to be so stressed. You're going to have way more energy. Your digestion is going to be better. And of course, you're going to have enough fuel coming in that you actually can build muscle. And then as you put more muscle on your body, your metabolism is going to once again speed up because it costs your body 10 times more calories to have muscle than it does to have body fat. So you need to be obviously actually hitting your macros within 5 grams, okay? It's not enough to just track macros. You actually have to hit your macros, okay? Because sometimes people say like, I track macros and then I go look at it and they're like under 50 grams in protein one day, they're over 20 grams in fat, and they're under 60 grams in carbs. Absolutely not. That is not good enough. You need to make sure that your body is conditioned to the macro targets that you have set. So how close it needs to be is within 5 grams plus or minus. Now, in the very beginning, if you're new to tracking macros, that might seem a little bit overwhelming. And my advice for you is just start, just do your best, just get going. And it's gonna get a lot easier with time and practice. So the reason that you want to do a reverse diet first is you just really want to maximize your metabolism and maximize how much muscle you can gain. And a lot of the time when you are gradually increasing your intake with the right macros, and of course that that you are also lifting weights in addition to this. If you don't know how to lift weights as a beginner, go watch this video that I made. It's gonna walk you through how to set up what your workout program should be. So obviously you need to be lifting weights to gain muscle, even if you're just doing it at home. But of course I recommend that you go to an actual gym. It's gonna be better. But if you're a total beginner, at home is gonna be good enough. Even just doing body weight workouts, which I have free examples of. You can download my free sample workout guides in the link in the description. So in some way, shape, or form, you need to be putting a stimulus on your muscles so that they're gonna be growing, and obviously that you're going to be feeding your body appropriately so that the muscle can come on and the body fat can come off. So you're gonna actually look lean, toned, sexy, defined, and be really energized while doing this. So the goal of the reverse diet is to get to at least 2,000 calories a day consistently, obviously with the right macro ratios, and then to decide what it is that you wanna do. Now, this is gonna come down to what your current body composition is, meaning how much fat do you have and how much muscle do you have. So if you are somebody who is kind of skinny already, and yeah, you might have a little bit of fat you wanna lose, maybe like 10 pounds, maybe maximum 20, then there's a good chance that continuing to increase your calories is actually going to be the right decision for you. Because probably what's gonna happen is that your body's gonna be responding really well, the body fat's gonna be coming off, and the muscle is gonna be coming on. I've seen this happen with so many clients who came to me starting off a little bit more skinny fat, and we actually were able to increase them well over 2,000 calories a day, and we actually didn't have to ever rush into a fat loss phase, aka the cut, because their body was responding so well that there was no reason to decrease calories. So I want you to think of it that way. You don't ever want to decrease your calories unless there's absolutely no other choice but to do so. However, don't ever decrease your calories until you're at least at 2,000 calories a day. And the reason why is because to go into the fat loss phase, which would be the second step to do if you have a lot of fat that you want to lose, you don't want to go into a fat loss phase if your intake is not high enough right now, because the entire point of a fat loss phase is you need to go into a calorie deficit, which means you need to be decreasing your calories. But if right now you are eating less than 2,000 calories a day, let's say you're only eating 1,600 calories a day, okay, so what? You're gonna drop your calories to 1,300, and then you're gonna have to drop them again and again and again. So now you're gonna be at 1,000 calories a day. That's obviously just not enough food. And the thing is, remember that the effectiveness of your calorie deficit is going to be determined on the speed of your metabolism and the speed of your calorie burn, which we know adapts to how much food you're eating. So if you're eating very, very little, you're also going to be burning very, very little. So this is why you need to set your body up to go into a fat loss phase, hence the reverse diet. So what you're going to do is gradually increase your calories all the way up to 2,000 calories a day at least. And then if you see, my body's responding really well to this, I'm definitely getting some good shape, then I would encourage you to keep going with the reverse diet, keep going up another couple hundred calories, even if you're somebody who has a lot of fat to lose. This happened with one of my clients. She came to me weighing almost 200 pounds. She definitely had quite a bit of fat that she wanted to lose, but she was barely eating when we first started. She was struggling to eat even 1,600 calories a day. So first I knew that we were gonna have to reverse diet. We're gonna have to get her intake up first. And then she started dropping weight really, really well as we increased her calories. And we were able to do that all the way up to 2,300 calories a day. And then finally, when we got to the 2,300 calories, she had already lost about 13 pounds at that point. But I realized around then that was kind of when she was maxing out and she wasn't really losing anymore. And so that's when I decided, okay, now we can go into the calorie deficit. We can go into the fat loss phase because your body's telling us it's not going to drop any more weight. We kind of hit the threshold. And obviously you're eating enough food at this point that you can start to drop, and we're going to have a lot of room to drop your calories. So going into a fat loss phase, you want to have somewhere between 500 to as much as 1,000 calories in room to drop your calories. And really the absolute lowest I think that somebody should go in a fat loss phase is like 1,500, 1,600 calories. If you have to go lower than that, I think it's going to be very, very challenging for you. It's going to be pretty miserable. So you want to give yourself a lot of room. And that's why I say at least 2,000 calories a day to end your reverse at, because if you were to drop 500 calories, you'd still only be at 1,500, which is still not great. And that's why I recommend try to reverse up to 21, 22, 23, even a little bit higher if you can. But the thing is, I say this, but it's all dependent on your body. You have to be monitoring your biofeedback. You have to see, okay, what is happening with the scale? What is happening with my photos? How is my body responding to this increase? Because for some people, for sure, they're not necessarily going to be losing weight in the reverse itself. Everybody is different. And so if that is the case, if you see, you're just not really making the progress progress that you want. Be patient, know that the progress will come. It's still very important that you do get to at least that 2,000 calories a day, and then you can start cutting. So again, I go into a lot of detail about specifically how to monitor your biofeedback, how to increase your calories in a reverse diet in the video that I mentioned before. So once again, that's linked in the description, so go check that out to understand exactly how to take yourself through a reverse diet. Okay, so let's say now you have done the reverse diet and now you've gone into the fat loss phase. So obviously the goal of the fat loss phase is to lose fat. You're going into a calorie deficit and you're gonna be bringing up your cardio a little bit so that you can maximize as much fat loss as possible while still keeping your metabolism as high as you possibly can and still maintaining as much muscle as you possibly can. So a fat loss phase is gonna last somewhere between 4 to 6 months. And obviously there's no like exact amount of time it should take. It's really dependent on your body composition and your biofeedback. If you're getting to the point where you're just like so burnt out, you're so exhausted, you're so hungry and miserable after about that 4-month mark, then you might want to tell yourself, okay, I've had enough. It's time for me to start reversing once again out of the fat loss phase. So again, I have an entire video that goes specifically over how to do a cut, all of the details, which you can find here, and I'm also going to link it in the description below. Okay, so now after you have finished your cut, you finished your calorie deficit, you've lost a lot of fat, now what you're going to do is reverse out of the deficit once again, because we have to again meet your body where it's at and slowly start bringing it up bit by bit by bit. And now the next phase, and this is going to be a very long phase, and this is the phase a lot of people are scared to do, is the bulk, meaning the muscle gain phase. So bulking can again seem like a very scary thing. Women think, I don't want to get bulky, I don't want to get big, and that does not mean that that is going to happen while you're bulking. So the term that I prefer to call it is lean gaining, because you are going to be gaining muscle and you're going to do that by eating in a slight calorie surplus, because the only way you can really gain muscle is you have to be giving your body an excess amount of fuel, because if you're just eating at maintenance, there's no extra calories left over to create new tissue with, and we're trying to create new muscle. So you need to eat a little bit more than where your body's maintenance is, but you don't want to eat way more, because the problem is if you're going way over, then you will gain unnecessarily a bunch of body fat. So that's why we keep it lean. We lean gain, even though technically that is a bulk. And so when you're in this phase, this should be at least 6 months, if not more, like a year or even a year and a half. And the reason why it should take so much time is because gaining muscle is slow. Unfortunately, it just takes your body a good bit of time. You can actually lose fat 4 times faster than you can gain muscle. So you have to be much more patient going through a lean gaining phase. And the first few months of your bulk should actually go really well. You should actually just feel like, wow, I'm gaining a lot of nice size and shape. I'm really curvy. I'm seeing a way bigger booty, way more like filled out muscles than I ever had before. But probably towards the end, you're gonna start to feel a little uncomfortable. You're gonna start to feel a little bit thick, a little bit jiggly. And I'm not gonna lie, this part is a little bit of a mind F. And that is because when you're gaining muscle by being in a surplus, as much as we try to control it to gain as little fat as possible, at the end of the day, you are in a surplus. You are gonna gain a little bit of body fat with that muscle. This is just part of the process. There's no way to get around it other than obviously trying to really stay on top of your macros, really use the fuel as much as you can in the gym to push hard. But beyond that, yeah, you are gonna gain a little bit of fat. This just comes with the territory. Be patient with this process. Just get comfortable being a little bit uncomfortable, because the thing is, there's so much magic happening in the stage. You're speeding up your metabolism like crazy and you're putting on a bunch of muscle so that the next time you go to do a cut, you go to do a fat loss phase, you're gonna look like a whole new person underneath, because you work so hard to put on all this muscle. Now you trim down the fat and now it's like, oh my God, there's all this muscle there that wasn't there before I did this bulk. All right, fam, so that is a quick overview of the different stages of reversing, cutting, bulking, why you would do each one. I know it's kind of a lot of information for one video, and that's why I would encourage you to go check the links in the description below of each phase. I have a video on how to reverse diet, how to cut, and also my video about talking about my bulk, the experience that I went through, so you can check out each of those phases and understand a little bit more about it. So you can watch this video here, I'll just link it right now. It is about my bulk, so you're gonna understand what a muscle gain phase is like. So I will see you in that video.